The following is an A-Team PR production.
Welcome to the Free Range Texan podcast. We're kind of an escape hatch for everyday life. We know today's world has issues. Maybe that's just all the more reason to spend some time. So saddle up with a bunch of Free Range Texans. Here's one now, our host, Michael Shawn.
Free Range Texan, episode 50, and the first of our monthly installments with the Free Range Texan podcast of the month. First, we want to thank so many of you for taking a quick moment to subscribe to our podcast, wherever you like to listen. And seriously, folks, if any of you have a tendency to nod off a bit in your podcast listening habits, we've got a cure for that, as we introduce to you our musical guest, Kristen Karma. Y'all are going to need to buckle up for episode 50's edition of the Free Range Talent File. Foxy, the Wonder Dog, our chief of security, don't you see, in her usual position now, keeping a particularly close watch on our snack bar area here at Studio A in the lavish 18 PR studios. Good dog, Foxy. Clearly, Foxy has some kind of priority list on her security duties and concerns. Michael Shawn's Campfire still rounds out our production with a tale about the early days of Abilene, Texas. Oh yes, and thanks to all of you, when our podcast was recently disassembled and rebuilt for the changeover to a monthly, listener response and producers alike made it a quick decision. Keep the Campfire. If you ever think that we don't listen to you folks out there at info@freerangetexan.net, you'd be wrong. So I guess it's time to saddle up and let's get ready to ride. We all are aware that our world has changed. The Free Range Texan has one very important message for our United States listeners. Be kind, but with your eyes wide open. Be vigilant. Be ready to guard your freedom. Hey, why don't you spend some time riding with the best little podcast in Texas, the Free Range Texan. See, this guy is going on a hiking vacation. I know, wrap your mind around that. Anyways, through the mountains out west. You know what I mean? Big mountains, Rockies. Well, before setting off into the boonies, he stops by a small general store to get some of the things that he needs. After picking out the rest of his provisions, he asked the old store owner, "Say, mister, I'm going hiking up in the mountains, and I was just wondering, do you have any bears around here?" Well, the store owner said, "Yep." "What kind?" "Well, we We got black bears and we got grizzlies. I see, said the hiker. Do you have any of those bear bells? What exactly do you mean? The store owner said. You know, replies the hiker, those little Twinkie bells that people wear in bear country to warn the bears that they are coming so that they don't surprise the bears and get attacked. Well, the store owner said, oh, yeah, they're over there. He pointed to a shelf on the other side of the store. The hiker selects a couple of bells, and he takes them to the counter to pay for them. Tell me something, mister. How can you tell when you're in bear territory anyway? Well, the store owner looked at him and rolled his eyes and said, by the scat. The hiker said, well, how can I tell if I'm in grizzly territory or black bear territory? The store owner glanced back at him and said, by the scat. The hiker said, well, what's the difference? I mean, what's different between grizzly scat and black bear scat? The store owner said, the stuff that's in it. Getting a little frustrated, the hiker asked, okay, what's in grizzly bear scat that isn't in black bear scat? The store owner said, bear bells, as he hands the hiker his purchase. Not your average little podcast from Texas. Neighbor, you're riding with the free-range Texan. It's time now for another segment of the Free-Range Talent File. Brought to you by A-Team PR, bringing a host of creative media production and public relations services to our exclusive list of clients. Maybe you could hire the A-Team. And now, here's the next segment of the Free-Range Talent File. And now on the Free-Range Talent File, here's our guest, Kristen Karma, and Party Heroes.
Back to the walls, like you're back in school. No one makes a sound, afraid to break the rules. The light shines bright on an empty floor. Only 7 people here, and they're looking for more. Bust through the doors, here to save the day. Rescue our souls and show us the way. We show up late and we're bringing the crowd. Look out, we're coming and it's gonna get loud. Time to get dirty, get a little flirty. Gonna give you what you need. We are the party heroes, light it up. Turn up the volume from 1 to 10. We are the party heroes, feel the beat. It's a rush so hard, don't let the party end.
party heroes, and we are so glad to have Kristen Karma with us. That, of course, is one of several tunes that she's got right now that's making some waves in the music industry. She is a consummate professional. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Kristen Karma, and welcome to the Free Range Texan, Kristen.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, we might tell people right off the bat, you are not in Texas. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct. I'm in Toronto.
You are
Canada.
A Canadian girl, and we were reading on your background a little bit. You're actually from Vancouver, isn't that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I started my career out west, learning the instruments, and that's where I got my certification in audio engineering, doing all the schooling, performing. I started writing out there, and then I decided to make the move to the big city of Toronto.
Well, let me do this early. I usually wait till later in an interview to mention this, but let me just tell people right now, on our freerangetexan.net blog, when you get to freerangetexan.net, you just click on the blog there. We have a blog article up about Kristen. There's a couple of her videos that are available there, but tremendous pictures of Kristen. She is a heck of a gal, and when you see these pictures, you'll see what I mean. And she's a great talent, but we've got a blog article about Kristen there, and she is definitely a visual artist as well as an audio artist. And Kristen, when did you decide that you were going to be an entertainer, a performer, a music person? When did all that become apparent?
That didn't start until after I finished my schooling for audio engineering. I was doing the background and recording bands, and I decided that I would rather be singing in front of a mic and getting out there and having people listen to what I have to say. So that was probably about 11 years ago now.
Well, I understand that you've also got experience in the ballet.
I do, yeah. When I first, when I was very, very little, I didn't know what was drawing me to dance or anything, but it was definitely the music. But I started off with ballet, and I started off going through the grades, and then they were telling me I'd be too tall when I grew up, and no boy would dance with me if I was going to be over 6 foot. And so I kind of was discouraged and went another path. But I'm glad that I found music, and I'm able to have an outlet. So.
Okay, there is a thing there. I think this is a Canadian thing called the Air Cadets, the military marching band. How did that come about?
My brother was in the Royal Canadian Air Cadets, and he was in the pipes and drums band. And I decided when I was 12 I wanted to join as well. It was cool. You could go flying, you could do camping, get to all this cool stuff. But what really got to me was the music. Again, I joined the marching band, and I excelled in my skills on the saxophone, and I picked up all these different instruments, different percussion instruments, euphonium at one time, trumpets, and then I moved from there into the pipes and drums world, and I started learning the bagpipes and learned all the drums and really excelled at that, and just kept going. It's more on I was able to learn how to put different rhythms together and different instrumentation, and just have a huge grasp on how the different instruments work together. You
know what I'm hearing here? It's always been in you. I mean, when you start saying, well, I made decisions to do this and that when I was 12 years old, that means the whole thing, the rhythm, the whole thing, music, recording, and the type of work that you're doing now, it's always been in there in you.
Absolutely. I might have not known it at the time, but I mean, I sure know it now, and I'm thankful for all the experiences, and it's really excelled my writing.
Tell me about the Royal Conservatory of Music, and forgive my ignorance, but that is definitely a Canadian thing, I guess. Explain that.
Yeah, so when I was little, I wanted to learn the piano, and my parents had got me a keyboard, and I started learning. It was very quick. I think we had a little book that I could start reading music on, and I went through that very quickly the day of that I sat down at the piano, not knowing anything. And from there, I decided to take it a little more seriously. And the Royal Conservatory of Music is a grading system. So you could go through, grade 1 all the way to, I think, grade 12. Then you can get your teaching license, and it's testing. So they test you on your ear training and your skills on your rhythm. You have to prepare different pieces. You have to memorize pieces. It's very similar to how the cadet program worked as well, with testing for grades. But it's you go through all the grades, and then at the end you can get your teaching license.
Well, and I can't help but notice, too, that there has been some remarkable people that have influenced your career. But if I say Lady Gaga to you, tell us about your experience there.
Yeah, she's a huge influence in my music. When she was coming and doing her tour for the Born This Way tour, I knew the individual that was putting on her VIP after party, which her opener, DJ Lady Starlight, was opening up for her. And I got on the list, and I was selected as one of 2 musical performers. And I opened up the night, and then eventually opening up for DJ Lady Starlight. Wow. And then when she was coming back through for the Joanne World Tour, he was putting on another VIP after party, a very smaller, a more select VIPs there. And
they remembered you.
They did. So yeah. I was actually the only performer that night performing, but it was really cool. She had a bunch of designers and DJs and dancers, and I mean, it was really cool. There was a lot of really cool people and producers and people in the crowd. I mean, Yoko Ono was in the second one, which is really cool. Yeah, it was really cool to just be a part of that, since she is a huge influence in my music.
Kristen, you appeared in the 2019 Women of Music issue of Billboard magazine. That's kind of a feather in your cap.
Yes, that was pretty cool, especially just coming off promoting my latest single, Dear John, and then having that promoted in Billboard magazine. It's huge. It's really like a dream come true just to be associated with Billboard. But to be in the magazine was extraordinary. And
I would assume that you are dealing with a lot of the same things that an artist here in West Texas or Southern California or on the East Coast of the United States, it's all the same tussle right now, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. It's unfortunate that we can't do the live performances and stuff, but everybody needs to keep their distance and wear their masks and, do their part so we can get through this together and we can come back stronger than ever.
Kristen Karma, you've got this tune that I understand you wrote, Dear John. Isn't that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And tell us a little bit about the backstory on Dear John. This song is a completely different gear from the song we heard at the beginning. And my understanding is that in South Africa right now, you are number 1 on the charts with this song. Tell us about Dear John.
Yeah, so Dear John is a little bit of a change up for me. I was co-writing a session with my friend Marian Hanna, and we wanted to write a song because it was coming up to my dad's 2-year anniversary of his passing, and it was her brother's 10-year anniversary of his passing. And so we kind of wanted to write a song that was commemorating them. And so we wrote Dear John. We went into the studio. We still didn't have a name for it. And, we heard the first mix, and she's like, Johnny would really have loved this song. And I said, no way. Is your brother's name John? And she said, yes. I'm like, my dad's name is John. And she's like, no way. And I'm like, wouldn't that be really cool if we named it Dear John? So we changed a few lyrics and we went with the name Dear John. But it's really a song on wondering since they're not here with us anymore, if they're up there, if they're watching what we're doing, if they're proud of us, if they're, rooting us on from up there, and just, we're thinking about them. So the song came out perfectly. We shot a music video. Everything went seamlessly, and it's breaking a lot of records for us right now, and picking up a lot of awards, and it's just a dream come true. And I absolutely know that they're watching up there, and they are proud of what we're accomplishing with this song.
Kristen Karma, thank you for being on the Free Range Texan and for sharing just a little slice of your life. I can already tell you that we would be so pleased to have you come back and be on our podcast again. And let's share this, with your permission, Kristen, with our listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Kristen Karma and Dear John on the Free Range Texan podcast.
Thank you.
Dear John, are you doing well? Are you happy with your farewell? Can you hear me falling down to pray? I think about you every single day. Don't you wish there was another path to make it through to one more life? I hope you're up there watching over me. Can you see all that I can see? I hope you're feeling really proud of me for all I've done and turned out to be. Dear John, can you give me a sign? A little ray of hope to know we're aligned. Is this for real? It feels like a dream. I don't know what to do, I just wanna scream. Don't you wish there was another path to make it through to one more
since you've been gone. Still thinking about the fact you did nothing wrong. Still trying to let the pain out. I'm still searching for a way to cope with everything and be a better person. But you can rest assured knowing that every day I grow and continue to learn. Even when I'm led astray, I can't lose. You're the compass in my heart, always pointing to the truth. 3.14159. It's not about the quantity, it's the quality of life. I like to believe there's a purpose for everything. Even though you left, I believe you're in a better place. So I keep reminding myself just to stay on my path. It won't do me no well to keep hating my heart for the things I can't change. So I try to live in love in honor of your name.
I hope you're up there watching over me. Can you see all that I can see? I hope you're feeling really proud of me for all I've done and turned out to be.
You've been listening to the Free Range Talent File. If you'd like more information about our guest, just go to our website at freerangetexan.net. Also, submissions to be interviewed on the Free Range Talent File should be sent to our website at freerangetexan.net. Hello, this is Michael Shawn. I wanted to take just a moment and tell you about something else we are producing here at the A-Team PR Studios. It's one of my other gigs outside of the Free Range Texan podcast. Now, while on our podcast, we cover lots of different genres and all types of different storytelling and music, this one thing I'm telling you about is pretty much for country music listeners. Being a Texas boy, that's kind of natural for me. So here's the scoop. Weeknights at 10 o'clock, Texas time, I host a show called The Midnight Express. It's on a new country music network that began at the beginning of this year. It is a worldwide entertainment network featuring the best in country music 24 hours a day. Incidentally, right now, it might be a good time for me to point out that Boss Country Radio is designed to provide programming to broadcast stations anywhere in the world. But in case you're in an area where a broadcast station has not picked up Boss Country Radio, it streams worldwide in digital stereo. You can connect to that at bosscountryradio.com. And from there, there's lots of ways to listen. Well, anyway, here's my point. If you like country music, I just wanted to recommend to you bosscountryradio.com, where every weeknight at 10 o'clock, you can listen to Michael Shawn's Midnight Express. Have digital microphone, will travel. Dress code required. Best if combined with smoked meats. Yeah, like no caps with bills on the back. Yeah, where do you find those anyway? Officially designated as a spectacular use of your time consuming addictive audio. You're listening to the Free Range Texan Podcast. Hello, this is Michael Shawn. Grab you some of that Campfire coffee right there and sit a spell. Matthew Bannister was fresh out of Philadelphia Medical School. He graduated in good standing and was being sought after by prestigious medical institutions up and down the East Coast. Money would no longer be a problem. He could pretty much name his price. But Dr. Bannister had other ideas. He'd read about the great need for doctors out west. So upon graduation, he boarded the train and took the advice of Horace Greeley to go west, young man, go west. But immediately he began to notice that the further west he traveled, the less graciously he was received. You see, most towns had a person who practiced medicine on men, women, children, horses, cows, and the like. Few of them had been trained in Eastern schools, and most of them had been educated with on-the-job training, you might say. Most of the townspeople had gotten used to this individual and were not inclined to accept a young upstart of a doctor from back east. So Matthew Bannister went from town to town looking for folks somewhere that would be willing to take a chance on a new physician. It was with that on his mind when his stage pulled into the small frontier town known as Abilene, Texas. As he stepped off the stage, he quickly realized that there had just been a gunfight in the saloon right across the street, and Abilene's Doc Smith, was nowhere to be found. Matthew rushed to the saloon where he found the marshal lying on the floor in a pool of his own blood, and a gunslinger lay there on the same floor as well, where he had received a bullet near the heart in return. Dr. Bannister told several of the patrons to clear off the pool table where they would carefully lay out the marshal. Then he explained to everyone he was a doctor. Then he told everyone to clear the saloon except for the saloon girl there who had mentioned to him that she served as a nurse in the Union Army. Dr. Bannister and the young saloon girl worked feverishly for hours. When he finally managed to remove the bullet, stop the bleeding, and predicted that the marshal would possibly recover. Then the townsfolk let out a cheer that the young doctor had all but worked a miracle. Now I know what you're thinking. Dr. Matthew Bannister had found a place to put down roots, but you'd be wrong. Because as soon as Doc Smith showed back up, the people of Abilene were quick to forget the heroics of their new doctor. They would say, "This new doctor is all right, but I just don't trust him like old Doc Smith." So after a few weeks of not being able to set up a practice, Matthew gave up and decided to head back east on the morning stage. Later that night, around 2 o'clock in the morning, there was a knock at his door. He opened the door and found a hysterical young girl. She said, "Hurry, you need to hurry." Matthew said, "Oh, what do you mean?" "Miss Johnson is about to have her baby, and she needs help." The smell of smoke was all around the little girl, and Matthew assumed that she was from a wagon train outside of town. He took the little girl by the arm and went down to the livery, where they climbed into his buggy and drove quickly out of town. Matthew said, "Tell me how to get to the wagon train where she is." He followed the little girl's instructions, but to his surprise, he was sitting in front of a large ranch house southwest of Abilene. The two of them quickly ran up the front steps, inside through the main door, the little girl leading him every step of the way, up the staircase to the bedroom at the top of the stairs. There, he found Mrs. Johnson about to give birth. Through her clenched teeth, she cried, "Who are you?" "I'm Dr. Bannister, and I'll help you deliver this baby." Over the next half hour, a beautiful young baby girl was brought into the world through the work of this new young physician. Seeing that both mother and daughter were okay, Dr. Matthew Bannister determined that he would go back to town. The next morning, the young doctor gathered up his books and medical equipment and headed to the stage depot. But as he walked down the street, a crowd began to gather around him. He thought to himself, "Now what have I done?" "We've been looking for you," shouted Ben Johnson, the banker, who also held a position of mayor and the most prominent member of the Abilene community. "Young fellow, you're a hero. I learned this morning that you helped deliver my granddaughter." Dr. Bannister looked at him sheepishly and said, "I'm glad to help, sir." "I'm very glad, but I can't quite figure out how you knew that my daughter-in-law needed you so desperately." Well, the young doctor scratched his head and said, "Oh, I can explain that. The young girl came to my door asking for help and took me out to the ranch. I did notice that when I got ready to leave, the young girl wasn't anywhere in sight," the banker said. "What did she look like?" "Oh, about 7 years old, brown hair, sparkly eyes. I thought I smelled smoke when I got close to her, which made me think she might be with the wagon train outside of town." The banker suddenly grew pale and misty-eyed. "You've just described my granddaughter, who was killed in a house fire 3 years ago." As a general rule, medical doctors do not believe in ghosts. But from that time on, Dr. Matthew Bannister was a firm believer. He not only witnessed the event, but it signaled a medical career that took off as he lived the rest of his life serving the people of Abilene, Texas. Just another story around our campfire. Adios, my friends. Free Range Texan, episode 50. Breaking camp on this edition of our new monthly podcast. I guess now would be a good time for me to mention that the Free Range Texan episode 51 will be released after dark September 1st of this out-of-control year of 2020. Thanks a million to our new friend, Kristen Karma, for being a spectacular guest on our podcast. And while we're at it, thanks to so many of you that have graciously subscribed to our Free Range Texan podcast, no matter where you listen. When you do what you do, you join our Free Range Texan family. I can't tell you how much we appreciate that simple gesture. Our work on episode 51 is already underway. September 1st is not that far off. Boy, the time flies. Foxy, get in the pickup. Take 'em home, sweetie pie.
Thank y'all for listening to the Free Range Texan podcast, produced at 18PR Studios, out yonder in West Texas, with our host, who's been voted the hardest working man in podcasting, Michael Shawn. Feedback or submissions to our program can be submitted on our website, freerangetexan.net. That's freerangetexan.net. This is Sweetie Pie on behalf of Michael, Shawn, and the crew here in Studio A, where we're all looking forward to spending time with you on our next bi-weekly episode of the Free Range Texan podcast. Y'all come back now, you hear?
An 18PR production. End transmission.
That's all. Can we go now, Dad? Can we go now, Dad? Can we go now, Dad?